students, welcome back to the class. Today is the day 22. That is the chapter we are discussing is about breathing and exchange of the gases, line by line NCRT, and then we are targeting 340 plus marks all by solving the MCQs chapter by chapter. So here, breathing and exchange of gases is one of the most scoring and then conceptual chapter, I can say, especially for the NEET biology, and it is carrying around 2 to 3 questions every year. If you observe that one, approximately you can get 8 to 12 marks from this chapter. In this chapter you will learn the mechanism of breathing, learn lung volume, transport of the gases, and then oxygen dissociation curve, and then regulation of the respiration in the super simple and exam focused way. If you want a quick revision, easy tricks, and then guaranteed NEET PYQ, you can be. This is the one of the best, and then short is perfect for you. So this one shot or else this video will be helpful for the chapter to solve the chapter, that is the breathing and exchange of the gases. So let's begin with the first question of the today's chapter. So from the introduction and then respiratory organ. First question: in which of the following gases exchange between O2 and then CO2 occurs through generally body surface? So here the given answers: A. Sponges, B. Coelenterates, C. Flatworms, and then D. All. So here the right option is D. All. Next question: match the following type. Here the match the following question is there. Animals are given and then their respiratory organs are given. Earthworm, A is earthworm, and A is earthworm. They breathe through the moist cuticle, that is A is for 4. So A is 4 means 2 are there, so this option and this option is eliminated. Most aquatic arthropods, that is B, they respire by gills. B is 3. So here fishes, that is C. C is also aquatic means gills, that is B and C are 3. D, birds by lungs, and then insect by tracheae. So here the right option is option A. Next question, that is question number 3, not 33, it's mistaken. Question number 3: amphibians, example frog, respire through moist skin, B through lungs, C both A and B, D trachea. So here the right option is both A and B. Amphibians like frogs have the multiple ways of breathing, that is through moist skin also, and then they can breathe by lungs also. So the next question, that is question number 4: which is correct sequence of air passages in man? So for this, shortcut is given here, that is the trick: NPT BBA, or else you can also remember in the line manner, that is shortcut line. Nice people take big breaths before air. So according to NPT BBAA, the first option itself will be right. N P T B B A. So the next question, that is question number 5. Which is correct about nasopharynx? Which is the correct about nasopharynx? Here, internal nostril opening into a nasopharynx. Yes, this one is correct. The nasopharynx is the uppermost part of the pharynx located behind the nasal cavity. Second one, it is a common passage for both air and then food. This one is incorrect, because specifically for the nasopharynx, while the pharynx as a whole is a common passage, the nasopharynx serves only as a airway. Okay, oropharynx and then laryngopharynx are the parts that serves both respiratory and then digestive function. So for the C, it opens through gullet of the larynx region into the trachea. This one is also wrong. The nasopharynx leads down into the orophagus, and furthermore gullet refers to the esophagus. That is for the food. So here, which one is correct about the nasopharynx? Means first one, that is A. Next question, that is question number 6. Which of the following option is wrong about the larynx? That is the sound box. Which of the following option is wrong about the larynx? So here, option A, it is a bony box. It is a bony box. Actually, this one is wrong, because it's not a bony box, it's a cartilaginous structure that is made up of cartilage, not bone. Next, B, glottis is the opening into the larynx. Yes, this one is right. Glottis is the opening, and during swallowing of the food, glottis is covered by epiglottis to prevent food entering into the larynx. This one is also correct. So which of the option is wrong means here the A option is wrong. Next, 7th question. A trachea divides into right and then left primary bronchi at dash thoracic vertebrae. So here the right option is option A 4, B 5, C 6 and then D 9. Among them, right option is option B 5. Next, 8th one, question number 8. Incomplete cartilaginous rings support all of the following except A. Trachea, primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, respiratory bronchiole. So here the right option is option C. Next question, that is question number 9. Which of the following has the smallest diameter? So A. Trachea, that is the largest airway, we can say, because it is having 20 to 25 mm in diameter. And terminal bronchiole, that is, which one is the smallest one? Which is less than, let me write here, 0.5 mm. And when we talk about tertiary bronchus, it is about 1 to 6 mm in diameter. And secondary bronchi, also known as labor bronchi, these branches from the primary bronchi and then have a smaller diameter than the trachea. So here, who is the smallest one? The terminal bronchi, which is just 0.5 mm in diameter. Next, 10th question. Lungs are comprised by A. only alveoli. C, no, it must be B, pleura. C, different types of bronchi. D, network of bronchi, bronchioles and then alveoli. So here the right option is option D. Lungs are comprised by network of bronchi, bronchioles and then alveoli. So next 11th question. Sites of gases exchange in lungs are. Sites of gases exchange in the lungs are A, that is alveoli itself. These are very tiny balloon like air sacs at the end of the respiratory tree. Okay, they are the primary sites where oxygen enters the blood and then carbon dioxide leaves it through the process called what? Diffusion. So here tracheoles, these are the part of the respiratory system in the insects, and when we talk about bronchioles, these are the small air passage that leads to the alveoli, whereas pleura, this is a thin and then double layered membrane that surrounds the protects the lungs. So here the right option is option A. Next question number 12. It is double layered and covers the lungs. Means they are giving some statements, you must say that they are talking about which one, these features are about what. Okay, it is double layered and covered the lungs. Second one, fluid between the layers reduces friction on the lung surface. Outer layer is in contact with the thoracic wall and then inner layer is in contact with lungs. So the above features refers to pericardium, peritoneum, pleura and the none. So here the right option is C, pleura. Next 13th question. The part starting with the external nostril up to the terminal bronchioles constitute the A, respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system, B, inspiratory part, C, conducting part and then D, expiratory part. So here the right option is option C. Next 14th question. The respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system consists of A, the parts starting with external nostrils up to terminal bronchioles, B, alveoli and then their ducts, C, all bronchi and then terminal bronchioles, D, all bronchioles. So here the right option is option B, alveoli and their ducts. Next question, that is question number 15. The conducting part of the respiratory system has functions. A, filter, warm and then moisten the air. This one is itself is the right. Next question, question number 16. The chamber formed dorsally by the vertebral column, ventrally by sternum, laterally by the ribs and on the lower side of the dome-shaped diaphragm is. They are talking about abdominal cavity, no. Thoracic cavity, yes. So 16th one right option is B. Next question, that is question number 17. Respiration involves following steps. Here the steps are given randomly. First, diffusion of gases O2 and then CO2 across alveolar membrane. 2, transport of gases by blood. 3, utilization of O2 by cells for catabolic reactions and resultant release of CO2. 4th, pulmonary ventilation by which atmospheric air is drawn in and CO2 rich alveolar air is released out. So this one is first step. Next, diffusion of O2 and then CO2 between the blood and then tissue. So here after the pulmonary ventilation by which atmospheric air is drawn in and CO2 rich alveolar air is released out, what happens? Diffusion of gases O2 and then CO2 across the alveolar membrane takes place. Then next, transport of gases the next diffusion of them, and then at last utilization, that is the fifth one. So first is 4. Where is the 4? So, C. 4, 1, 2, 5 and then 3. Yes. 17th question, C is option. C is the right option. Next, 18th question. Diagram is given, and then study the given diagram and identify A, B, C and then D. Here, what is A? A is epiglottis, B is alveoli, C is bronchioles and then D is diaphragm. So the correct option is option B, epiglottis, alveoli, bronchioles and then diaphragm. Next, from the question, concept mechanism of the breathing. 19th question, the lungs expand in inspiration or inhalation because A, diaphragm contracts upwards, B, the volume of thoracic cavity increases, C, external intercostal muscles relax, D, diaphragm relaxes. So here the right option is option B. Next, 20th question. The process of exhalation or expiration is begin mainly due to A, contraction of the intercostal muscles, B, contraction of the diaphragm, C, the relaxation of the muscles, D, low pressure in thoracic cavity. So here the right option is option C. Next question. Which of the following statement about the mechanism of ventilation or else breathing is false? Is false, he is asking. A, as the diaphragm relaxes, air is expelled from the respiratory system. Air is expelled from the respiratory system. Yes, this is true. Next, during inspiration, the lungs act as a suction pump. Yes. C, inspiration is passive and expiration is active process. This one is wrong because they given vice versa. Inspiration is active and then expiration is passive. D, for quiet breathing, external intercostal muscles, diaphragm plays an important role. That's right. So here which one is false means C is false. 22th question. Inspiration occurs when there is a negative pressure in the lungs with respect to the atmospheric pressure. This negative pressure is achieved when A, intrapulmonary pressure is less than the atmospheric pressure. This one itself is right. So 22, the right option is A. Next, 23. Expiration takes place when the intrapulmonary pressure is A, greater than the atmospheric pressure, B, lesser than the atmospheric pressure, C, equal to the atmospheric pressure, and then D, equal to the intrapleural pressure. So here the right option is option A. Next question, that is question number 24. Again, one more sequencing is correct. Which of the following sequence is correct to initiate inspiration? Initiate inspiration. So step by step breakdown we must take. First one, the contraction of the external intercostal muscles raises and then ribs sternum. Volume of the thorax increases in the dorsal ventral axis. Intrapulmonary pressure decreases, diaphragm contraction, air rushes into the lungs, volume of thorax increases in the anterior posterior axis. So here first come the diaphragm contraction, next comes volume of the thorax increases, that is 1 and then 2. Next, contraction of the internal, that is this one is 3, means 4 6 1 4 6 none. Fourth is given, sixth is not there no in the fifth one. First one is 4, next second one is 6, then next comes 1, then next comes, see option must be, let us write aside. 1 is over, 2 is over, 3 is over. After that what happens? Volume of thorax increases in the dorsal ventral, so this will be fourth one. And next is of this one, intrapulmonary pressure decreases, this is fifth, and then this one is last. So how come, let us write here side by. First is fourth one, next is 6, next comes 1, next comes 2, next comes 3, and then last is 5. So here only one is must add, that is 6 you must add. So the right option is option D. Next, 25th question. Which of the following sequence is correct to initiate expiration? Here we discussed about inspiration, here expiration. First one, relaxation of external intercostal muscles and then return of the diaphragm and sternum to their normal position. Second one, air expelled from lungs. 3, volume of thorax decreases. 4, intrapulmonary pressure increases. So here the right option is 1 3. First one is 1 correct, next comes this one, third one, then next comes the fourth one, and then last air expelled from the lungs, that is last. So here 1 3 4 2, 1 3 4 2, right option is A. Next question, that is question number 26. On an average a healthy human breathes dash times per minute: 20 to 40, 1 to 6, 12 to 16, 16 to 25. So here the right option is option C, 12 to 16 breaths per minute. Next, 27. Additional muscles for forceful breathing are A, diaphragm and then external intercostal muscles, B, abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles, C, diaphragm and abdominal muscles, D, external and internal intercostal muscles. So here the right option is option B. Next, the diagram is given. 28th, following illusion depicts the mechanism of breathing in which of the following option all the parts A, B, C, D are correctly labeled. So here A, this one, A, the arrow pointing away from the lungs, isn't it? This indicates air is being expelled from the lungs. Air is expelled from the lungs means, where is air is expelling into lungs? No, this one is no. Air is expelled from the lungs. Yes, A is correct here. Next, if I am talking about B, ribs and then sternum, the arrow indicates what? The ribs and then sternum here. So B, ribs and then sternum, return to the original position. So this one is also correct. And then C is what? C is the diaphragm. And then D, volume of thorax decreased. So the right option is option B. 29th one, match the following question. Here tidal volume, on this one you will get compulsorily one question here. So what is tidal volume actually? Tidal volume is volume of air in one breath. So volume of air in one breath. So for first is right, one is E. So this option one is E. And whereas second one, residual volume, this is the amount of air remaining in lungs after expiration, that is reserve volume is expelled. So 3 is C. 4, sorry, residual volume is 3, C. 2 is C. 2 is C. So this one is also gone. Next, C, expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume, amount of air expelled in forced exhalation. Forced exhalation. So where is forced exhalation? Here. Third one is F. So third one is F. So the right option is option C. Next, one more, match the following. Column A with column B. Tidal volume. Here tidal volume, what is the volume? Approximately 500 ml. That is, one is matching with what? C. Next, inspiratory reserve volume, that is IRV, we can say IRV. What is that? Volume, how much volume? 2500 to 3000 ml. So where is it? A. Second one is A. Next, B, expiratory reserve volume, ERV. After IRV, ERV, that is 1000 to 1100 ml. 1000 to 1100 ml. So that's what 3 will be for B. 3 is B. So here you can say the right option will be option B. Next, 31. Arrange the following in order to increasing, or else in order of increasing volume. Increasing in the volume. What is the order? Tidal volume order is 500 ml. Let me write here. This is 500 ml approx, and residual volume 1000 to 1100. Expiratory reserve volume, wait, just a minute. Residual volume, it is residual volume how much? 1100 1100 to 1200 ml, whereas expiratory reserve volume, that is about 1000 to 1100. And then what is vital capacity? That is, what is vital capacity? 4500 to 4500 to 4800 ml. So average value, when we are comparing, first it will be off, that is 4 less than what? 2. Second one, first it comes 4, next 2, next less than that is 3, and then less than that is 1. So here the right option is option C. Next 32th question. Question number 32. Different respiratory volumes are given below. That is tidal volume, residual volume. The functional residual capacity, that is FRC. What is FRC? He is asking what is formula to find out FRC. We have a formula, that is ERV plus RV. ERV plus RV. How much ERV is given? 1000, isn't it? So 1000 plus RV. How much RV? 1000. 1000 plus 1000 is how much? 2000 ml. So here the right option is option B. Thirty-three question, that is expiratory capacity is equals to, expiratory capacity is equals to, that is tidal volume plus ERV, tidal volume plus ERV. That is, if I write expiratory capacity, that is EC, is equals to TV plus ERV. So here the right option is option A. Next 34th one. A spirometer cannot be used to measure, spirometer cannot be used to measure IC, that is inspiratory capacity, B RV, that is residual volume, C ERV, that is expiratory reserve volume, IRV, that is inspiratory reserve volume. So here the spirometer cannot be used to measure what? Residual volume. Next 35. The maximum volume of air you can forcefully exhale after taking the deepest possible breath is called, it's called what? Vital capacity. Next question, questions from exchange of gases, that is 36th question. Exchange of gases A occurs between the alveoli and pulmonary blood capillary, right? B occurs between blood and the tissues, right? C it occurs by diffusion, right? So that's what all of the above is right. Next question, that is question number 37. Which of the following factors affects the diffusion of gases? Which of the following affects the diffusion of gases? A partial pressure of diffusing gases, C solubility of gases, C thickness of diffusion membrane, and then D all. So here the right option is all. Make it as B, not C. Next question, 38th one. Which of the following statement about partial pressure of CO2 is true? Partial pressure of CO2 is true. Next A, it is higher in alveoli than in pulmonary artery. It's false, because for CO2 to leave the blood and then enter the lungs to be exhaled, the pulmonary artery must be higher. That's what this is wrong. B, it is higher in systematic arteries than in tissues. This one is also false. C, it is higher in systematic veins than in the systematic artery. So this one is true about that. Next D, it is higher in pulmonary veins than the pulmonary artery. This one is also wrong. So the right option for 38 is C. Next, the partial pressure of CO2 in the venous blood is greater than in the tissue space, lesser than in the tissue space, lesser than in the arterial blood, less than in alveoli. So here the right option is option B. Next, 40th question. A section of an alveolus with a pulmonary capillary indicates the presence of major layers constituting diffusion membrane. Here, yes, the right option is option A itself, that is the 3. Next, partial pressure in mmHg of O2 in atmospheric air, alveoli, deoxygenated blood, oxygenated blood, and then tissues are. Partial pressure in mm, that is you must say about how much atmospheric pressure, and what about the alveoli. So here let me give you atmospheric air partial pressure is 159, whereas alveoli deoxygenated blood, that is 104. Next, oxygenated blood is about 95, and then tissues 40. So which one is correct? 159, 104, 95 and 40. So the right option is option C. Yes. Next question, that is question number 42. Partial pressure of CO2. Here we discuss about O2, here it's of CO2 in atmospheric air, that is 0.3 mmHg. In alveoli it's about 40 mmHg. Deoxygenated blood 45. Oxygenated blood 40, and then last tissue, that is 45. So 0.3, 40, 45, 40 and then 45. So the right option is option A. Next question, diagram based question. What is A, B and then C indicates here? 43, number 43. What is A, what is B, what is C, and then D? Here A is pulmonary artery, and then B is systemic vein. C is systemic artery, and then D is pulmonary vein. So here the right option will be A is pulmonary artery. Yes, A is pulmonary artery. B is systemic vein. C is systemic artery, and then D is pulmonary vein. It must be here, and then this must be here. Small mistake. So here comes the right option, option C. 44. In comparison to solubility of O2 in blood, the solubility of CO2 is, in comparison to solubility of O2 in blood, the solubility of CO2 is A 20 to 25 times lesser, B slightly higher, C slightly greater, D 20 to 25 times higher. Here the right option is option D. Next question, that is question number 45, diagram based question. This is the diagram. A, B and then C must identify. The label A here, it is indicating that alveolar wall or else basement membrane, we can also say. B is RBC and then C is alveolar wall. This is not A actually, this one is A. So that is basement membrane. So here the right option is option A. 46. The barrier between the air in alveolus and then blood in pulmonary capillary consists of 3 layers and its total thickness is 1 mm, more than 1 mm, much less than 1 mm, and then D 2 mm. So here it will be much less than 1 mm. Next, questions from transport of gases and transport of carbon dioxide, that is transport of oxygen and then carbon dioxide. 47th question, total percentage of O2 transported by hemoglobin or RBC is, total percentage of O2 transported by hemoglobin is A 3%, B 97%, C 49%, D 100%. So here the right option is option B, that is 97%. Next question, besides RBC, blood plasma also carries O2 in solution. The percentage is remaining, that is 3%. Here if it is 97, the remaining will be what? Blood plasma carrying O2. Next, 49. CO2 is transported by RBC by bicarbonates in a dissolved state through plasma and then all. So here the right option is all. 50th question, the majority of CO2 is transported by carbonates, bicarbonates, carbaminohemoglobin, dissolved state in blood. So here the right option is bicarbonates. Next question, that is question number 51. Next question, 51. Blood carries the CO2 in the 3 forms. The correct percentage of CO2 in these forms are, see shortcut I gave, 70 23 and then 7 rule. 70 23 7 rule. 70 is bicarbonate. Bicarbonate is how much? 70. So first option is having 70 here. Next, carbamino HB, that is carbaminohemoglobin, that is how much? 23%. So 22 23 5%. Next here, dissolved form of in plasma 7%. So 7. So the right option is option A. Next, 52 question, each molecule of hemoglobin when fully saturated carries how many molecules of O2? When fully saturated, it carries 4 oxygen. It carries how much? 4 oxygen molecule. Next, 53. Dissociation curve is associated with carbonic anhydrogenase, hydrohydrase, CO, CHCl3, oxyhemoglobin. Here the right option is option D, oxyhemoglobin. 54th one. Binding of O2 with hemoglobin is primarily related to. It is primarily related to partial pressure of oxygen, that is PO2. Option A. Next, 55. Besides PO2, the other factors affecting the binding of O2 with hemoglobin is PCO2, that is partial pressure of carbon dioxide, H plus concentration, that is pH concentration, temperature, that's what all of them, they all are responsible for the factors. Next, 56. Oxygen dissociation curve is J-shaped, S-shaped, L-shaped and zigzag. It is S-shaped. 57. Which of the following statement is wrong? Here, oxygen binds with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form a oxyhemoglobin. Yes, this one is right. Oxygen binds to irreversible with hemoglobin in the lungs and detaches at the tissues. B. Every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver around 5 ml of O2 to the tissues. Yes, this one is also correct. Under normal physiological conditions, what happen? 100 ml of the oxygenated blood typically carries about 20 ml of the O2 and deliver roughly 5 ml of it to the tissue. And then C. Occupational respiratory disorders are characterized by fibrosis, that is proliferation of fibrous tissue. Yes, this one is also correct. So all are correct, there is no wrong statement. That's what the right option is, D. 58th question. What will be the PO2 and PCO2 in the atmospheric air compared to those in the alveolar? So here, after comparison, option A, PO2 lesser, PCO higher. B, PO2 higher and then PCO2 is lesser. Where in alveolar, atmospheric air compared to in alveolar. So the B is right. PO2 will be higher and PCO2 is lower. Next question, that is question number 59. Which of the following would have the same O2 content? Here the right option is option A. Let me read option A. Blood entering the lungs, blood leaving the lungs, blood entering the right side of the heart, blood leaving the right side of the heart, blood entering the right side of the heart, blood leaving the left side of the heart, blood entering the tissue capillaries, blood leaving the tissue capillaries. So here the right option, where the content will be same O2 content, means blood when it is entering the right side of the heart and then leaving right side of the heart. Next question, that is question number 60. CO2 dissociates from carbaminohemoglobin when PO2 is low and then PCO is also low. B, both are high. C, PO2 low and then PCO is high. D, PO2 high and then PCO is low. And which one is called as Haldane effect? The correct option is called D, that is PO2 is high and then PCO2 is low. 61st question. Which of the following situation would result in the greatest degree of O2 saturation for hemoglobin, assuming PO2 remains constant? Assuming PO2 remains constant. So here, increased CO2 level, decreased temperature. B, increased CO2 level, decreased temperature. C, decreased CO2 level, decreases temperature. And then D, decreased CO2 level and increase the temperature. So here the right option will be option B. 62th question. Which of the following factors favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin in lungs? Here, when PO2 is low, PCO2 is high, and then pH is high, temperature is also high. No. When these two are high and this pH is low, temperature is high. When PO2 is high, PCO is low, pH is also low, and then temperature is also low. Then what happens? The factors which is favor will be this condition. Next question, that is 63. All of the following favors the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin to deliver O2 to the tissues except option A, PO2 is high. Yes, the right option itself is right. Next, 64th one. The transport of CO2 by blood is primarily depend on the transport of CO2 by the blood is primarily depend on the solubility of CO2 in blood. No. The presence of carbonic anhydrase in the RBCs. Right. So the right option is B. Next, 65. Which of the following statement is false among them? Which of the following statement is false? A, PO2 is major factor which affects the binding of CO2 with hemoglobin. This one is right. Next, PCO2 is low and PO2 is high, as in the tissue more binding of CO2 with the hemoglobin occurs. This one is false actually. In what happens in tissues, the PCO is actually high. In tissues, PCO2 is high, he is given low. So this one itself is the false statement. 66th one. If an injury tore a small hole in the membrane surrounding the lungs, what effect on the lung function would you expect? Pneumothorax with the lung collapse. Yes, that one itself is the right. Next, the graph is given. And then 67th question. Which of the following is incorrect? Incorrect about the given graph. Incorrect he is asking. See, increase in partial pressure of CO2 shifts the curve to right. Yes, this one is right. At the low temperature, the curve shifts to left. Yes, this one is also right. At high pH, the curve shifts to right. No, this one is wrong, because at the high pH means its shifts to right is given. Concentration of hydrogen ions when pH is low, acidity increases hemoglobin's affinity for the oxygen, so which actually shifts the curve to the left, not to the right. So the right option is option C. 68th one, assertion and reason type of question. Here the given assertion is the maximum PO2 in alveoli is considering less than in the atmosphere. This one is right. Atmospheric PO2 is approximately 159, as I said, whereas alveolar PO2 is roughly 104. It is lower. And assertion, lungs in mammals do not completely empty with each breath, and inhalation occurs through the same airway as the exhalation. So each inhalation mixes fresh air with the oxygen depleted residual air. Yes, this one is also right. So here the right option will be option A. Next question, that is question number 69. How does an increase in CO2 concentration in the blood affects the pH of CSF? A. When pH is increased. No. B. When pH is decreased. Yes, this one is right. 70th question, that is assertion and reason type. A drop in blood pH causes an increase in heart rate. And then B, that is the reason, increased heart rate increases the rate at which CO2 is delivered to the lungs where CO2 is removed. So here both assertion and reasons are true. So here the right option will be option A. 71 from the regulation of respiration. Respiratory process is regulated by certain specialized centers in the brain. One of the following listed centers can reduce the inspiratory duration upon stimulation, that is medullary inspiratory center, pneumotaxic center, chemosynthetic center, and then apneustic center. So here the right option is option B. 72 pneumotoxic center is present in A. pons. A itself is right. 73 the breathing center initiates ventilation in response to a decrease in air pressure, a decrease in O2, and decrease in CO2, that is C is right here. 74th question, all the following factors play role in regulation of respiratory rhythm except he is asking CO2, and then pH concentration, O2, none of the above. Here the right option is O2 concentration. 75 receptors associated with aortic arch and then carotid artery can recognize charges in dash and then dash concentration and send necessary signals to the dash for remedial action. So here the receptor is aortic arch and carotid artery contains peripheral chemoreceptors, isn't it? What they sense carbon dioxide. So here the right option will be option B, that is CO2, and then pH concentration send necessary signals to rhythmic center. 76 respiratory center of brain is stimulated by CO2 content in venous blood. No. CO2 content in arterial blood. Yes, this one is right. So 76 option B is right. Next, disorders of the respiratory system. 77 asthma is caused by infection of lungs, B infection of trachea, C spasm in bronchial muscles, D infection in nose. So here the right option is option C. Next, 78 one reason for the emphysema is A. Cigarette smoking, B. Drug addiction, C. Wine consumption, D. Heavy exercise. So here the right option is option A, that is cigarette smoking. Next, emphysema is characterized by A. Permanent enlargement and destruction of alveolar area leading to a reduction in respiratory surface. Exactly. The emphysema characterized is permanent enlargement and then destruction of the alveolar area. 80th question and then last question for today's class, that is, why do human beings have difficulty breathing at high elevations? At the high elevations, because A. O2 makes up lower percentage of the air there, no. The temperature is lower, no. The barometric pressure is higher there, and then D. PO2 is lower there. So here the right option is option D. Option D is right for the 8th question. So for the chapter breathing and exchange of gases, these are the 80 questions that are covering the line by line NCERT. So for the next session, again we will be discussing with the another most important interesting chapter. So thank you and bye bye for today.